Hello, and welcome back to another episode of PlantCare.club. My name is Fred. I have been in the plant industry for just over 6 years now. I grew up on a wholesale greenhouse farm, and usually I have my co-host Maddie with me, who is also my sister, but she does help me slow down and answer some of the more simple questions here and there. But today I'm flying a little bit solo. Today, Maddie couldn't join me, so I have to do this on my own. So, plantcare.club. What do? We like to say we do three things. Number one, we talk about your indoor and your outdoor plants. Number two, we talk about new products that are coming out to the market, so whether that's soil or pots or anything else you can think of. And number three, we answer your questions. So if you have any questions that you would like answered, maybe something specific about your plants, we like to get to those from time to time on the show, and that way we can really help you out regardless of what level of plant parent you are. If you're brand new, if you're very experienced, hopefully we can help you anywhere along that journey. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we want to answer a question of how to pick out the right plant for the right space. So we mulled on this for a little bit and said, you know what, this should be an entire show all on its own. And we have 5 considerations for you to start with if you're going to pick out a plant for your space. So let's get right to it. The first consideration that I think you should think about is how much floor space or shelf space are you looking to fill? This should be very straightforward and we can all think of it, but I like to think of it as poinsettias. If you want to put something on a shelf, you might want a small poinsettia. They make even 2.5 inch, very small pots, all the way up to 12 inch or 14 inch large pots that are going to fill a large space. Sometimes you need to match the size of the pot and the size of the plant to the size of your home. Some of those really small plants, they don't fit within a really large 4,000, 5,000 square foot home. But if you have an apartment, generally people will lean more towards the smaller 4 inch, 6 inch, 2 inch pots. That way they can A, fit more plants in their space, and B, it doesn't take up a whole huge area on them. So that's number one that you've really got to think about. Some great small plants would be succulents, cactus, sansevieria. There are some sansevieria that come in some small varieties that instead of growing up, they grow out. They kind of bush out onto the sides. So those are great varieties to look at. And maybe even like Neanthobella palm. They're a great option that can really they're a palm, but they will stay a little bit smaller and more compact. They're also called Bella palms or parlor palms is what the normal names are. Now, let's say you want to get a bigger plant. You want a 10 inch, you want a 12 inch tropical plant that's going to come in. You might be looking at some, let's say Monstera. They can really bush out. They'll climb if you give them something to climb on, but they will really branch out and bush out, especially when you get them from the store. A Ficus lirata, especially if it hasn't been pinched, it'll just continue to grow up and up and up, and that might fill the right space that you're looking for. Hope Salome and cat palms are two others that I had down. So a cat palm is going to just continue to get larger and larger and larger over time. That's an awesome option, especially if you want to repot it down the road. It'll just keep growing with you. Hope Salome, Philodendron Hope Salome, they have at our greenhouse we call them the hand plants, or our employees will call them los manos. It's because they have little, it almost looks like fingers on the leaves, and they continue to reach out as if they're grabbing water and then throwing it down towards the center of the plant. So you might want to take a look at Hope Salome. They usually bush out rather than bushing up. So you have to think about what kind of space you're looking to fill and then work backwards to see what plant will fill that space. So you've thought about that. Next up is how much light do you have in that area? This one should be pretty straightforward, but we have to think about in one spot. Let's say the example I like to use is a basement bathroom. I've heard of people that are looking for basement bathroom plants that has no windows, so it's all just enclosed, four walls. They've got their bathroom in there. What kind of plants do we put in? And the only one that I really ever suggest is a ZZ. Now, listen, every plant wants some level of sunlight. Some plants want indirect sunlight or direct sunlight even, and they want it a little bit more regularly. And others you can get away with less light, especially if you climatize them to it over time. Examples of plants that want really high sunlight: succulents, Sansevieria. Again, Sansevieria loves the sunlight. Boston ferns, they love sun. And you can a lot of alocasia varieties will want some strong sunlight, especially if you go towards something like a colocasia. They can even take direct sunlight. So those are great options for high sunlight, very close to a window, bright areas. For low light levels, ZZs, as I mentioned, some Dieffenbachia varieties are really going to like the low light levels, and I have Aspidistra on here as well. So Aspidistra, they are they look they're a very strong plant. It's very hard to rip the leaves. If you ever get an aspidistra, you have to try to grab one of the leaves and even like gently try to rip it, or even a little bit more strongly. The leaves are so strong on it. They take a long time to grow, and because they take so long to grow, they're usually grown in lower light levels. So you can get away with having a plant that is you can get away with putting that plant into a room with low light levels. But what you need to note is sometimes the best way to approach this is to take it from the store and you put it into a relatively, moderate light level for a month or two. And then you move it down to a lower light area, and then a lower, and then a lower. And you want to slowly step it in. If it goes from having tons of light to not much light all at once, that can cause the plant to go into shock, and it really doesn't love that. So, next up, number 3. How much attention do you want to give this plant? That's a big question. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I forgot. I have a bunch of, well, here's my picture for the right space, whether this makes any difference to you. And here's my picture for the sunlight, the light levels. So there you go. Here's some nice pictures that I'm giving. Now, oh, there you go. Now there is a picture for attention. Look at that one gold piece. So it wants a lot of attention. How much attention do you want to give your plant? Like, what do you actually want to give it? Um, every person will want to give a different level of, whether they want to think about their plants often or not. I like to think of, I've told my wife this before, but I don't bring it up very often, that when I bring a plant to our house, whether it's indoor or outdoor, it is a proving ground for the plant, because my wife either does not water them or forgets to water them. Like, she believes that I really, really want to take care of plants at the greenhouse all day and then at home. And I say, no, I am not interested in that at all. But um, we when I bring a plant back to our house, I think, okay, this plant is going to go through the ringer. It is going to really be tested. How good is the breeding of this plant? Can it be neglected? Can it be forgotten about for a while? So some of the plants that I have in my house, I would say, yeah, they can do pretty well simply being forgotten. So I might be on the far end of the spectrum of, I don't want to think about them. I really want to leave them alone. Other people are going to be on the other end, where you take so much joy in taking care of your plant. You want to come home, you want to give it the perfect surrounding, you want to give it the perfect light levels. You really want to check up on it every single day, pruning, taking care of it, making sure that it's happy. And regardless of where you land, every option is awesome. But you've got to think about it. So, plants that want high attention, a lot of attention, poinsettias. Poinsettias can be number one on there. Poinsettias can be so hard to take care of, especially if they're back in your home rather than in a greenhouse. They have the changing of the seasons. It's going to be difficult for them. So poinsettias are number one. Calathea, that's number two. I put Calathea on here because they're finicky. They like to drop bottom leaves, and they're so susceptible to changes in pH. If the pH of the soil becomes too acidic or too basic, Calathea is very susceptible to that. A lot of times, browning leaves is your pH is too high for Calathea. So they're an important plant to look at if well, if you want to take a lot of care of them and you want to be on the ball. You gotta try getting a Calathea and see how you do with them. Boston ferns, I had this on the list. Okay, Boston ferns and cat palms. I have this on the list because they might want some pruning, especially if you try to overwinter cat palms or Boston ferns. The cat palms, they might get some burnt tips once in a while if you miss a watering, so you might have to trim some of those off to keep it looking really nice. Boston ferns, at the end of the year, you're going to have to, trim them down, set them inside over the winter, and then take them back outside so that they can do well. If both of those varieties don't have enough water, it's very common for Boston ferns to get, their bottom leaves start to get all brown and crinkly. They drop off, so they need a little bit more attention. Independent independent plants. What are they? ZZ's number one, Sansevieria, spider plants, and succulents. Those are my four on the list. ZZ's, they're the great basement plants, as I just mentioned. Sansevieria and cactus, I'm going to group those two together because they are basically the same family. I like to think of them as desert plants. They can live in the desert. You give them water every once a month maybe, once every few weeks, and they're gonna do fine. They're gonna do really well. They like to be neglected. Spider plants as well. So spider plants are funny because they are happy just being kind of forgotten about. They're such a tough plant and they root very easily. So I put them in the independent category. Okay, next, what kind of shape are you looking for? So, my next picture, look at that, tall trees. So, generally, when we're looking at the plants, we say that they go up or they go out. So it depends on a lot of house plants come from Costa Rica, and picture yourself in the Costa Rican like rainforest. All plants, they look for the sunlight. They're looking for more light. So some of them compete with each other by going up towards so the sun's up here, they're going up towards the sunlight. Some of them know that there's a canopy of, let's say these trees that you see here, there's a canopy of trees above them. So instead of trying to go up and competing for it, they try to spread out and they try to get more light on more leaves all along the bottom of the tree line. So that's some of the habits that you see with plants. Now, you have to think about it in your house. Is it in the corner of a room and you want to put a plant there so that it can grow up the wall? Or is it maybe it's in a spot where you don't have as much ceiling space, but you want it to spread out on the sides? Is it on a shelf? And maybe the shelf you don't want it to take over the whole space, so you need it to be not too tall, not too wide either. You need it to kind of stay in its ball. So plants that just grow up, I would say Ficus lyrata. That's a great example, especially if you don't pinch it. If it's just one node that's growing straight up and you keep staking it to, let's say you put a piece of long bamboo inside and you just keep staking it to that bamboo, it's going to grow straight up and down. You've got Sansevieria, especially like let's say Larineti or Zalonica. They like to grow in a straight line, all inside of a really they stay in the space that their pot allows them to be. Most palms like to stay relatively in their area. You will see them start to fade out and start to fall later on in the season, but in general they like to stay in their spot. And mass cane, corn cane. Trying to think of any other name. Mass cane is Dracaena mass cane is the common name that we use, and they are plants that they come in these really long stalks. When they show up at the greenhouse, you stick them in the dirt, you wait for them to root, and then they shoot a new head out, and then they're ready to sell. So they stay really within their zone, whatever the pot allows them to grow in. That's kind of the range that they're going to sit. Now, plants that like to go out, Hope Salome. Those are Los Manos. Remember from earlier? Those are Los Manos. Boston ferns, they like to go out. Monstera And in general, I have philodendrons in general. So that's philodendron Hope Salome and Monstera. That's the family that they come from. And generally within those families, they like to grow out. A really cool variety you could think of is Philodendron Prince of Orange. This is a plant that has a lot of different colors of leaves. They're really cool, especially around the fall time. Red, green, yellow, orange, like all those colors of leaves will come from the same plant. And in general, philodendrons grow across. So you got to think about the shape that you're looking to fill. Next up, do you want your plant to trail? So a trailing plant, it can fill, let's say, a shelf. If I, just about every other coffee shop that I go to, or let's say a breakfast diner, it's classic in breakfast diners. You look near, let's say the front entryway, or you look near maybe it's on the counter where you go and pay, and they have a pothos that's been there, and the pothos is grown out. They got it as a little pot earlier, and they keep watering it, easy to take care of, and then it just keeps running and running and running. It just keeps stringing all the way across, and they want to take care of it, so then they, they'll hold it up, they'll set it on the counter, or maybe it goes up the wall around a door frame and then back down the other side. So pothos is a great example of a plant that can trail. But sometimes you don't want plants that trail. So great plants that like to trail are pothos, transcendia, pilea, and English ivy. So English ivy, those are the little ones. They almost look like maple leaves that come from the stem. They like to keep running. Many different pilea varieties. They will trail pretty well. Transcendia, that is another name for wandering Jew. Is another name for it. They like to trail, and another common thing you have to think about, or you can think about, with trailing plants is generally they will go across the soil, and as they're moving across the soil, they try to shoot out more little roots. So if you're looking to fill a space, maybe you have like a long pot and you want to be able to fill all of it so that you don't see any dirt in that space, try planting, let's say, a pothos on one end, and then it runs all the way across the bare soil, and as it's running across, it'll feel that there's moisture down there, and it'll shoot down more roots as it's going. Okay, last one that I have on this list is propagation. So are you looking to propagate your plants? Are you looking to have a plant and, take some little babies off of it, have a side project, and start up something new? Great plants for propagation are spider plants. Now, I mentioned my wife and how she doesn't like taking care of plants too often. So the first plant that she ever propagated was a spider plant. I brought a spider plant home from the greenhouse once. It was just a cutting and a 4-inch pot with some soil in it. And I said, hey, listen, let's throw this in here, and you can watch it root, you can watch it grow from here. And so, I think we did that last year or 2 years ago. No, last year. And now we actually just propagated another cutting from the original spider plant that we had there. So spider plants, very easy to propagate. Transcendia Nanook. This is a variety of, as I sort of mentioned a minute or two ago, it's similar to Wandering Jew, but Nanook is a specific variety in there that is a little bit more pink and white. It's got a bit more of a vibrant color. And all you have to do is pinch off one of the nodes at the end of the plant, stick it into some soil, and they root pretty easily. Most succulents, you can take the new growth off, throw it into soil. Usually you use tweezers if you're going to take it off, let's say a cactus, but you want to throw it back into the soil, and then it'll root out from there. And pothos you can root. That one's a little bit more of an expert level. It's hard to keep the water correct correct when you are propagating, well, pothos and a lot of these different varieties. But I am not going to get into that because that can be an entire other episode. Maybe another time when I don't have Maddie, I will go over propagation and what level of water you want to have. So that's all from me today. That's all that I've got. Thank you for visiting. Thank you for listening. And I hope that we were able to answer some questions and help you out picking out the right plant for your space. If you like the show, please share it with someone else. Share it with someone that might like it. Add a rating or add a review. And if you would like to hear some more, or if you have any questions, please send in questions. We love to answer them. No matter where you are on the plant parent scale, if you are brand new, or if this is your 60th plant and you're looking for your 61st, send us a message. Let us know where you're at. Let us know what your questions are, and we can hopefully help you from there. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again soon.